Hi, welcome to today's live broadcast from Outlier. So everybody's eyes is on CPI numbers for July. All the investors, everybody's looking at it, and if you know, CPI is a very very important indicator which literally measures the average change of how much price the consumers pay for goods and services over time. So let's talk about the expectations. What were the expectations? Where the number came in today, and what impact it will have on stock market? What Fed might do in future? Whether it will push the rates up or it will keep the rates steady. So we'll talk about all of that in today's podcast. Then we'll briefly touch base on rising orange juice futures and the impact it may have on your household expenses, and also some of the stocks that some of the companies that may get impacted by this. So before we get started, let me change the screen here so that you can see. Perfect. So before I jump into the numbers itself, I just want to talk about the difference between CPI and core CPI. You may have heard about these two terms, and I used to get confused by these two terms. So CPI is essentially average change in prices paid by consumers for specific goods and services. Again, it includes everything, which means your food, housing, transportation, healthcare, and more. Uh, the core CPI, the main difference is that it excludes the things which has that short-term price swings. For example, food and energy prices. So that is not included in core CPI. So that is essentially the main difference between CPI and core CPI. So let's talk about what were the expectations. So I pulled these numbers from one of the news sources, reliable news sources online, and these were like the expectation. The CPI was forecasted to rise 0.2% in July. It was around the same in June. Core CPI was forecasted to rose 0.2% for month of July. Year over year rise around 3.3% for CPI, for core CPI around 4.8%. So let's look at the exact numbers. So these are, so it's literally in line with whatever was predicted. So the consumer price index for rose by 0.2% in July. Let's look at what is the largest contributor for this. So shelter, which means essentially the rent that consumers pay, is the largest contributor among all these increases. So basically, it consists over 90% of the increase. So if you think about it, if somehow we can stabilize rent, we can stabilize energy prices, you may start seeing a cool off in inflation going forward. That means, which is good for economy, which is good for stock market, right? So right now it's still increasing. So let's look at the exact numbers here. So the food items close to again zero point 0.2, exactly what it was in month of June. Energy went up this month, like you see here. In June it was, and the main reason is rise in crude prices. I was talking about it on Tuesday about rising crude prices and how it may impact the energy sector. Like literally, all of those companies are in direct correlation with where the crude price is headed. So you need to keep an eye on whenever you are tracking the energy sector. So food and energy, it's around 2%. Shelter, around 0.4%. So again, coming back to what I said earlier, shelter or rent is one of the main contributor toward these CPI numbers. And if somehow we can stabilize that, we may see the numbers that Fed is hoping to get. Like their goal is to get the inflation under 2%, right? And literally the Fed's policy is, I'm hoping that they will not increase the rate further. They'll keep it paused going forward. Literally, I was expecting that if the CPI numbers are in line, they'll keep the rate paused for now. And if the CPI came in hot, then you may see like rates going up again, but I don't think that's happening. So CPI numbers are in literally line with what were projected. It may help with stock prices, at least in short term. So we'll see. I haven't checked the stock market yet. So let's go to our next topic: orange juice. Who doesn't drink it? I mean, I drink it. I have probably, I buy it every week, and I know that recently I have seen the prices going up for orange juices. Why? Because of bad weather. And recently there was uh, in Florida, there was this nasty storm and the hurricane Ian and Nicole that uh, fell around 2022, and then there was this late freeze around the same year, which literally devastated the crops there. What they are predicting is around a 51% decline from prior year in production. So if the production is down, right, it's not just United States. We also import orange from other countries like Brazil and Mexico. They have their own problems as well. They have their own issue with bad weather and less crops and etc. It is going to impact the prices. And why it is important? Yeah, I mean, yes, the juice prices will go up, but there are some companies which can actually benefit from it. For example, Coca-Cola, right? So their brand, if I'm not mistaken, is Minute Maid. And then you have Pepsi. They also are one of the main producer and distributors of orange juice. Then you have Dole, a company which deals in packaged fruit, juices, etc. So you may see some benefit that these stocks will have. Uh, right now, let's look at where the XLP, which is essentially the staples sector, is headed, and may also look into the stock prices of Coca-Cola and what Outlier dashboard is telling us. So right now, XLP is literally in downtrend. I mean, there has been a lot of pressure. You see the blue price oscillator, which is essentially has it tells the direction of where the price is headed. So it is going down. So what I'm seeing here is there is a correction that is happening in staple sector. Not only staple sector, if you look here in the Outlier dashboard, pretty much all the sector is impacted with recent uh, downtrend. You talk about S&P 500, you talk about Dow, then discretionary financial. There was a recent downgrade that happened, like for around top 10 banks, not top 10 banks, but 10 banks were impacted by it. The financial sector is in correction right now. Same with staples, industrial, real estate. Everything is right now in this downward spiral. So personally, I would just wait for some time. This is just me. And even if I look at Coca-Cola, right, so it has this downward pressure right now. And if I look at investor fear and greed right now, it's still in that greed zone. I mean, I like to get in when I'm going long to identify when the investor fear is high, which is represented as these red zones, because I prefer to buy when everybody is fearful, and I try to take profits when everybody is greedy. So it is very easy for me to find out exactly where the market is at, where investor fear and greed is at for each stock and ETF. So that's how I can make my decisions very easily. So again, thank you all for joining. It was great talking to you today, and I'll see you next week on Tuesday. Thank you.